Is this the American dream? A nation that sends rockets into space, funds trillions in defense, and creates world-changing technologies, yet cannot guarantee a roof over the heads of its own citizens. In today's video, we examine the homelessness crisis in America's 10 largest cities. Behind every statistic is a face, a family, and a story of struggle. By the end of this journey, you'll understand how fragile the line is between stability and losing everything. Stay with us, and don't forget to subscribe to Global Lens for more in-depth global and social analyses. Chapter 1. New York City. The right to shelter under strain. New York is the city that never sleeps. But for many, that phrase is painfully literal. Subways and sidewalks have become nightly resting places for thousands. According to New York's Hope 2025 survey, the number of people sleeping on the streets increased to over 4,500, a 9% jump from the previous year. This is despite New York maintaining the largest shelter system in the nation and upholding a right-to-shelter law that guarantees anyone requesting a bed must be accommodated. 2 decades of rising housing costs reshaped the city. From 2000 to 2020, the number of people in the Department of Homeless Services shelters grew by nearly 175%. Pandemic eviction bans and rental aid briefly reduced homelessness, but when those programs ended, numbers surged again. Particularly alarming is the growing population of older adults entering shelters. Fixed retirement benefits cannot keep up with rents surpassing $3,000 a month. For many, one medical bill or a small rent hike is enough to cause displacement. Organizations such as Coalition for the Homeless and God's Love We Deliver step in with food programs and support. Yet the fundamental issue remains. The cost of housing continues to outpace income, eroding the foundation of the American dream in the nation's largest city. Chapter 2. Los Angeles, Skid Row, and the Illusion of Decline. On the opposite coast, Los Angeles reflects another dimension of the crisis. The 2025 count found approximately 72,300 people experiencing homelessness in Los Angeles County, a slight decline of 4% from the previous year. But that still represents the largest homeless population in the nation. Skid Row, east of downtown, remains the largest concentration of unhoused people in the United States. Rows of tents, makeshift shelters, and temporary encampments stretch across blocks. Nearly half of those counted in Los Angeles live without any form of shelter. While programs such as Inside Safe aim to move people from encampments into motels or shelters, critics point out that these are often temporary placements rather than permanent housing solutions. The math is stark. Median rent for a 2-bedroom apartment in Los Angeles exceeds $2,800. Families earning $60,000 annually find themselves spending nearly half their income just to keep a roof overhead. A missed paycheck, unexpected medical cost, or layoff can send them into the spiral of eviction and displacement. Even as entertainment brings billions of dollars to Hollywood, thousands sleep outside theater parking lots or along boulevards once filled with red carpet glamour. Chapter 3. Chicago, Cold Streets, Industrial Decline. Chicago, once a manufacturing powerhouse, now faces a homelessness crisis compounded by job losses and bitter winters. The Chicago Coalition for the Homeless estimated that nearly 68,000 people experienced homelessness in 2024, including those doubled up in relatives' homes, living in cars, or in shelters. Within that figure are nearly 20,000 children. Tent encampments appear under viaducts, along the CTA train lines, and near shuttered factories. Winter makes survival brutal. Hypothermia and frostbite cases rise every season, particularly among older adults. Rising rents, combined with stagnant wages, push families out of once stable neighborhoods. A single mother may work full-time as a nurse but still face a choice between paying rent or feeding her children. Organizations such as Franciscan Outreach operate warming centers, mobile clinics, and food programs. Yet the underlying challenge is structural. Industrial decline, coupled with rising living costs, leaves many residents vulnerable to the streets when economic shocks hit. Chapter 4. Las Vegas, the city, below the Strip. Few cities contrast wealth and despair as sharply as Las Vegas. Above ground, neon lights blaze and casinos bustle with energy. Below ground, in the city's flood control tunnels, outreach groups estimate around 1,500 people live in dangerous, damp conditions. Las Vegas rents have surged over 35% in just a few years, with a median asking rent of about $1,470 for a modest 1-bedroom apartment. Meanwhile, Nevada's minimum wage workers would need to labor nearly 100 hours a week to afford that rent. Local ordinances criminalize street camping with fines or jail time, forcing many unhoused individuals out of sight and into tunnels or desert fringes. Organizations like Shine a Light provide medical aid, counseling, and supplies directly inside the tunnels. The paradox is unavoidable. A city designed to entertain the world cannot house many of its own residents. Beneath the roulette tables and dazzling marquees is a hidden world of survival. Chapter 5. San Diego. Paradise with tents. Along the bay, San Diego markets itself as a sun-soaked paradise, yet homelessness has surged here as well. In 2024, the regional homeless count found over 10,600 people experiencing homelessness, up 3% from the previous year. About half of them live unsheltered, from Mission Bay to the edges of Interstate 5. Rental costs average around $2,800 for a two-bedroom apartment, 63% higher than the national average. This puts immense pressure on low-wage workers and retirees. Families often live in vehicles parked along boulevards, lacking bathrooms or running water. The city has responded with innovative but limited solutions. Quick-build container homes provide short-term relief. Nonprofits such as Father Joe's Villages offer comprehensive services from healthcare to nutrition support. Still, many question whether such measures address the root causes or simply manage a growing emergency. Chapter 6. San Jose. Silicon Valley's inequality. In the heart of Silicon Valley, home to Apple, Google, and Meta, thousands sleep in tents and old vehicles. The 2023 count reported more than 6,300 homeless people in San Jose and nearly 10,000 across Santa Clara County. Here, homelessness is not always about joblessness. About 1/5 of San Jose's homeless residents work full-time but cannot afford the region's housing costs. Average rents for one-bedroom apartments exceed $3,000 per month, more than double the national average. Technology has created enormous wealth, but the same industry's demand for housing has priced out workers across sectors. Nonprofits such as Life Moves provide temporary shelter, career support, and medical care, especially for older adults. Local government discussions of rent control and minimum wage increases continue, but the pace of housing construction lags far behind need. The contradiction is striking. In one of the world's richest regions, people sleep in cars outside the offices of trillion-dollar companies. Chapter 7. Dallas, out of sight, out of services. Dallas appears orderly downtown, with clean sidewalks and limited visible homelessness. But the reason is not that housing was solved. City ordinances prohibit camping or sleeping on streets and parks in central districts, effectively pushing about 1,000 homeless individuals to outlying areas. In total, around 4,200 people experience homelessness in Dallas. Affordable housing is increasingly scarce, with the supply of apartments under $900 per month shrinking by more than 60% in just 5 years. When displaced from downtown, unhoused individuals lose easy access to food programs, medical clinics, and legal services. Organizations such as the Stew Pot provide counseling, meals, and dignity-restoring programs. Yet the policy raises an uncomfortable question. Are cities solving homelessness, or simply relocating it to where tourists and business leaders cannot see? Chapter 8. Philadelphia. Homelessness and the opioid crisis. Philadelphia's homelessness crisis is intertwined with the opioid epidemic, particularly in the Kensington neighborhood. The 2024 count reported over 4,500 homeless residents citywide, with about 950 unsheltered on a given night. Many struggle with addiction, untreated health issues, or the long-term impacts of poverty. The rate of opioid use in Kensington is several times the national average. Streets littered with medical waste and encampments of individuals in visible distress highlight how homelessness and addiction form a dangerous cycle. Programs such as Project Home provide integrated housing and recovery services, while vocational training initiatives offer paths to employment for those completing rehabilitation. Yet Philadelphia's challenge illustrates how health crises and housing crises amplify one another, leaving thousands at risk. Chapter 9. Phoenix. Heat and homelessness. Phoenix is one of the hottest cities in the United States, and heat adds a deadly dimension to homelessness here. The 2025 Maricopa County count found nearly 9,734 people experiencing homelessness, with 51% unsheltered, the highest rate among major U.S. cities. Temperatures often soar to nearly 50 degrees Celsius. Hospitals report increasing admissions for heat stroke among homeless residents. Families living in vehicles or tents cannot escape the desert sun. Rents in Phoenix have risen 80% in 5 years, while wages have grown only slightly. Organizations such as Circle the City operate mobile health clinics and hydration stations, distributing water and offering checkups to those exposed to the heat. But every summer, the crisis turns from a housing problem into a survival emergency, underscoring how climate change and inequality converge. Chapter 10. San Francisco, the tech capital's shadows. San Francisco represents both extreme wealth and visible homelessness. The 2024 count identified about 8,323 homeless individuals in the city. While this is far less than a third of California's total, it still places San Francisco among the highest per capita rates nationally. In the Tenderloin district, tents line sidewalks beside office towers of billion-dollar companies. Rents average above $3,100 for a one-bedroom apartment, among the highest in the country. Even well-paid professionals risk falling behind. Tech layoffs, automation, and rising costs have displaced middle-class workers into cars or temporary shelters. At the same time, city policies have reduced visible tents on certain streets through a combination of enforcement and added shelter capacity. But critics note that displacement does not equal resolution. Programs such as Lava May Plus provide mobile showers and hygiene services, while new apps allow residents to donate directly to those in need. Yet the deeper challenge remains. When housing costs consume entire paychecks, the risk of falling into homelessness spreads far beyond the margins. From New York's subways to Phoenix's scorching sidewalks, the pattern is clear. The homelessness crisis in America's largest cities is not only about poverty, it is about rent outpacing wages, health systems tied to employment, aging populations on fixed incomes, and policies that often relocate rather than resolve. Each city shows a different face of the same struggle: unaffordable housing, fragile safety nets, and the looming risk that anyone, after a layoff, illness, or rent hike, could be next. If this video helped you understand the scale of the crisis, please like, share, and subscribe to Global Lens. Your engagement helps us continue producing research-based analysis that sheds light on critical global issues. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.